In 1972, the muscle car era took its last real breath before the walls came down for good. Every single manufacturer in Detroit switched, all at once, to a new, more honest way of measuring horsepower. Compression ratios dropped again to meet tightening emission standards, and at General Motors' only Firebird and Camaro assembly plant, a labor strike ran so long it nearly convinced the entire company to cancel both cars outright. By the end of this countdown, you'll know exactly which 10 American cars earned the right to be called the fastest of 1972, and why, just 1 year before the oil crisis and insurance surcharges finished the job entirely, this was genuinely the last stand of the Golden Age. This isn't just a list of fast cars. This is a story of the year the muscle car era's numbers finally caught up with reality. A new net horsepower rating system that made every engine in America look weaker on paper. A 174-day labor strike that nearly killed two legendary nameplates before they even had the chance to fade away naturally. And a handful of engineers who kept building genuinely quick cars anyway, right up until the very end. For 1972, the SAE net horsepower rating became fully mandatory across the entire American auto industry, replacing the old gross measurement system for good. Engines that had carried numbers in the 400s just 2 years earlier suddenly wore ratings in the 200s and 300s, not because the hardware inside had changed dramatically, but because the industry had finally started measuring power the way a customer would actually experience it, fully installed, accessories and all. At the same time, a 174-day United Auto Workers strike shut down General Motors' Norwood, Ohio plant, the only facility in the country building both the Firebird and the Camaro. Production for the entire model year collapsed by more than 40%, and GM's leadership seriously debated canceling both nameplates entirely rather than restart the line. Meanwhile, Chrysler quietly retired the 446 barrel and the Hemi altogether, and Chevrolet built its final year of the celebrated LT-1 small block. It was, in almost every measurable way, the last full model year before the muscle car era's true collapse arrived just 12 months later. Let's start the countdown. Number 10 keeps American Motors' pony car fighting into 1972, still carrying the largest engine the company had to offer. The Javelin AMX continued to offer AMC's 401 cubic inch V8 as its top option, now rated under the new net standard at approximately 255 horsepower. AMC continued refining the Javelin suspension and handling that year, holding on to its reputation as a genuinely competitive road racing platform, even as the broader industry's attention drifted further and further away from outright performance. It remains one of the more overlooked entries from Detroit's smallest major automaker, but the 401-powered Javelin AMX proved that even America's tiniest manufacturer was still willing to offer a genuinely serious engine, right up until the muscle car era's final full year. Number 9 brings Dodge's Charger into what would prove to be its last season with genuine big block muscle before a major downsizing redesign arrived the following year. The 1972 Charger Rally continued to offer the 440 cubic inch V8 as its top engine option, now rated under the new net standard at approximately 280 horsepower, with the fearsome 426 Hemi no longer available at all following its quiet retirement after the 1971 model year. It represented the final chapter of the classic, full-size engine Charger formula that had defined the nameplate since its dramatic 1968 redesign. It's a bittersweet entry on this list, a genuinely capable performance car, riding out the very last days of a formula that had defined Dodge's image throughout the entire Golden Age, just before an entirely new, more modest generation of Charger arrived to replace it. Number 8 brings Plymouth's budget muscle icon into a considerably quieter model year than its wild triple carburetor past. With the Hemi gone and the 446 barrel discontinued after 1971, the 1972 Roadrunner's top engine became a 400 cubic inch V8, rated under the new net standard at approximately 255 horsepower. It remained a genuinely capable performance car, but the days of checking a single option box for a 425 horsepower race engine were officially over, replaced by a lineup considerably more focused on drivability and emissions compliance than outright dragstrip dominance. It's one of the clearest examples on this entire list of just how quickly Detroit's performance ceiling had come down in a very short span of years. A nameplate that had once offered America's most legendary race engine as a simple option, now working with considerably more modest tools. Number 7 brings Ford's performance-oriented Mustang into a new model year, with the celebrated Boss models now gone from the lineup entirely. The 1972 Mach 1 offered the 351 cubic inch Cleveland V8 as its top available engine in a high-output configuration rated under the new net standard at approximately 266 horsepower. With the Boss 302, Boss 351, and Boss 429 all discontinued after their brief celebrated runs, the Mach 1 became Ford's sole remaining performance flag bearer for the Mustang line, carrying the torch largely on its own. It's a car that illustrates the broader industry trend playing out across this entire countdown. Genuinely capable performance wrapped in considerably more modest numbers than Detroit's engineers had been building just a few years earlier, as one legendary specialty model after another quietly disappeared from the order sheet. Number 6 brings Buick's torque-focused performance package into its final full season before a significant redesign changed the Skylark platform entirely. The 1972 GS Stage 1 continued to pair the 455 cubic inch V8 with Buick's hotter camshaft and larger valve package, now rated under the new net standard at a considerably more modest number than its gross-rated predecessors, though the engine's fundamental torque-first character remains largely intact. Buick's approach throughout the entire muscle car era, enormous low-end pulling power over flashy peak horsepower figures, continued to earn quiet respect from buyers who valued real-world drivability over spec sheet bragging rights. It's a fitting closing chapter for one of the more understated performance nameplates of the entire Golden Age, closing out its run in largely the same torque-heavy character it had carried since its 1965 debut. Before this countdown reaches its final 5 cars, it's worth pausing on an event that nearly erased 2 of the most important nameplates on this entire list before they got the chance to fade away on their own terms. A 174-day United Auto Workers strike hit General Motors' Norwood, Ohio assembly plant in 1972, the only facility in the country building both the Firebird and the Camaro. Production for the entire model year collapsed by more than 40%, and more than 1,000 partially finished cars were left stranded on the line, unable to meet new federal safety requirements once the strike finally ended, forcing GM to scrap them entirely rather than complete the work. GM's leadership seriously debated canceling both the Firebird and Camaro outright, rather than deal with the ongoing costs and complexity of keeping the aging platform in production. It's one of the least discussed near misses in the entire muscle car story. 2 nameplates that would go on to define American performance for decades longer, both just a single corporate decision away from disappearing in 1972, years before either one was truly ready to go. Number 5 keeps Oldsmobile's respected performance package running strong, absorbing the new net rating system while still delivering some of the most complete performance in the entire GM lineup. The 1972 W30 continued to offer the 455 cubic inch Rocket V8 with forced air induction, now rated under the new net standard at approximately 300 horsepower, a genuinely strong figure for the year, reflecting just how much real performance was still hiding behind Detroit's newly honest horsepower numbers. Oldsmobile's long-standing reputation for pairing genuine power with genuinely excellent handling remained fully intact right through the very end of the Golden Age. It's proof that even as the muscle car era's final chapter approached, Oldsmobile's engineers hadn't lost their touch for building a genuinely well-rounded performance car, regardless of what a smaller number on the window sticker might have suggested to a casual buyer. Number 4 brings Chevrolet's midsize muscle car back for another season, now working with a single, considerably more modest big block option. With the fearsome LS6 gone entirely after 1971, the 1972 Chevelle SS 454 offered only the milder LS5, now rated under the new net standard at 270 horsepower, a number that on paper looked like a dramatic step down from the LS6's legendary 450 horsepower peak just 2 years earlier, even though the real-world gap between the two engines had always been considerably smaller than their headline number suggested. It remained one of the most respected, most complete mid-size performance packages in America, even as the muscle car era's absolute ceiling had clearly, undeniably come down from where it stood at the start of the decade. Number 3 brings one of the most celebrated small block engines in Corvette history to its final bittersweet model year. The LT-1, nicknamed the Mouse That Roared by Corvette chief engineer Zora Arkus Duntov, closed out its 3-year run for 1972 rated under the new net standard at 255 horsepower, a considerable drop from 1970's original 370 horsepower gross rating, even though the underlying hardware had barely changed at all across those 3 seasons. Just 1,741 LT-1 Corvettes were built for the final model year, including a tiny handful equipped with the ultra-rare, race-focused ZR1 package, of which only 20 were built. It represented the end of an era for Corvette's small block performance program. Chevrolet wouldn't build another small block Corvette engine this celebrated for another 2 decades, and the LT-1 name itself wouldn't reappear on a Corvette until 1992. Number 2 brings Chevrolet's remaining big block Corvette option into 1972, now the sole surviving 454 after the fearsome LS6's full retirement. The LS5 continued as the Corvette's top available engine for buyers who wanted maximum displacement, now rated under the new net standard at 270 horsepower and 390 pound-feet of torque. Notably, the LS5 was withheld entirely from California buyers for 1972, an early sign of the increasingly fragmented state-by-state emissions rules that would complicate Detroit's performance offerings for the rest of the decade. It remained the most powerful engine Chevrolet offered anywhere in the Corvette lineup that year, a clear signal that even as the muscle car era wound down, Chevrolet's flagship sports car wasn't ready to give up its big block option just yet. And that brings us to number 1, the single most powerful production muscle car engine offered anywhere in America for 1972, the Pontiac Firebird Trans Am, and its legendary 455 HO. Carried over essentially unchanged from the year before, the round port 455 HO was factory rated under the new net standard at 300 horsepower and a genuinely massive 415 pound-feet of torque, making it comfortably the most powerful factory muscle car engine available anywhere in America that entire model year. Thanks to the 174-day Norwood plant strike, just 1,286 Trans Ams were built for the entire model year, with only 458 of those receiving the more desirable 4-speed manual transmission. Motor Trend praised the Trans Am's combination of power and genuinely excellent handling, and decades later, historians still describe the 455 HO as Pontiac's defiant middle finger to everyone who had already declared the muscle car era over. Rare, powerful, and genuinely dominant against every other engine on this list, the 1972 Trans Am 455 HO earned the top spot as proof that even in the era's final full year, Detroit hadn't entirely given up the fight. So what did all of this actually prove? That the new net horsepower rating system made 1972 look, on paper, like the year the muscle car era finally died, when in reality, cars like the Trans Am 455 HO and the Oldsmobile W30 were still delivering genuinely serious real-world performance. That a single 174-day labor strike came shockingly close to erasing 2 of the most important nameplates in American performance history before either one ever got the chance to properly finish its story. And that even as engine after engine, option after option, quietly disappeared from order sheets across the entire industry, a small handful of engineers kept fighting for real performance right up until the absolute last possible moment. Within just another year or two, the 1973 oil crisis, further emissions restrictions, and skyrocketing insurance premiums would finish what 1972 had only started. The muscle car era didn't collapse all at once. It wound down gradually, engine by engine, option box by option box, and 1972 stands as the last full model year Detroit still had genuine fight left in it. Which 1972 American car would you bring back if you could only choose one? The dominant Trans Am 455HO, the last of its kind Corvette LT-1, or the strike-battered Chevelle SS 454? Did your father, your uncle, or a neighbor on your street own one of these cars? Write the name in the comments below.